Good evening. Welcome to this meeting of the Common Council of the City of Huntington for September 30th, 2025. Prior to the business meeting this evening, we'll have an invocation led by Reverend Chris Lance of Evangelical United Methodist, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Christy McElhinney. Those who wish to participate may rise at this time.
Let us pray. Gracious God, you are the grantor of wisdom and the source of our courage. We've gathered in this place to conduct the business of our city and all the work and effort that goes with it. We come to this place with grateful hearts for the gift of community and the privilege of serving one another. Grant us your wisdom to guide the decisions made in this room, that they may bring peace, justice, and flourishing to all who call our city home. In times like these, when compassion and moral courage seem to be in short supply, we implore our leaders to be doubly committed to the common good and human decency as they keep in their hearts the words of John Wesley, "Do no harm, do good, and stay in love with you, O God." May we take seriously and live into the challenging words from the prophet Micah, who tells us, "As God has told you, O mortal, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with your God." Grant our city council clarity of thought, compassion in spirit, and courage to lead with integrity. Bless our city, its leaders, and its people, that together we may build a place of hope, grace, safety, and opportunity. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And with that, we'll call the business meeting to order, beginning with a roll call. Christy?
Brodigan,
Present.
Chapman,
Present.
Felton,
Here.
Funk,
Here.
Johnson,
Here.
Pike,
Present.
Rensberger.
Present.
Having established a quorum for the conducting of city business, we'll move on to our first item on the agenda, which is regarding a public hearing for Ordinance 19C25, the 2026 budget appropriations. At this time, I'll open the public hearing to any members of the public here to address council in person or remotely. Seeing or hearing any members of the public to address council on the matter, we will close the public hearing and move along to consideration of minutes from the previous meeting of September 9th. Is there a motion to bring the minutes to the floor for consideration and adoption?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and second. Further discussion and consideration of the minutes. Not seeing or hearing any at this time, we'll call the question in favor of adoption of the minutes as presented. Christy?
Chapman,
Yes.
Felton,
Yes.
Funk,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Pike,
Yes.
Rensberger,
Yes.
Brodigan.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to reports from committees, boards, or commissions. Charlie?
I have nothing. Thank you.
Paul?
Nothing today.
Dwight?
Nothing.
BJ?
Nothing.
Todd?
We didn't have a meeting, but Mark has officially retired. So I think they're still in the process of finding his replacement. And we had a retirement party, so he's officially, and he sent out an email to everybody saying thanks for everything you've done. But he has helped this city a lot, so hopefully, and county. So hopefully we can get another person that'll take care of it as good as he did. So thank you.
Thank you. Andrew?
Nothing.
Dave? Okay. Next item on the agenda is introduction and swearing in of this year's members of that Viking thing. And so at this time, I'd like to give a little background on this before having the students come up. So for those in the audience who are here tonight on behalf of your loved ones, this was an idea that I learned of from another community back in December of 2019. And so it was a priority to install and begin this. And then January of 2020 happened, and things went sideways for a while. So a few years ago, we were able to get this back on track. And so this is our third year of that Viking thing, which is it's the Mayor's Student Advisory Council at the high school. And under Indiana statute, that also allows me to appoint one member of that Viking thing to serve as a non-voting member of this year's city council as well. And so We do have that appointment, and he will be serving with us in future council meetings and have a seat with us to be able to contribute. A little background on the name, because the name sounds a little weird if you just read it on paper, that Viking thing. So we are the Huntington North Vikings, of course, in our school corporation, and Viking culture and society, whenever they would have a problem that was too big for a family to solve, they would get together with other families, and when they gathered together, they would call it a ting, or a thing in modern English. And so when there was a problem in the community, they'd get together to solve it, and that's what Viking things were all about. And so when we gather together with the students, we are teaching them how to problem solve and deliver results for their fellow classmates. And so with that, I do want to offer a chance for this year's students to please step up to the podium and introduce themselves. And so Graydon, if you wouldn't mind leading off for us, and invite all of you to come up together.
Hi, I'm Graydon. I am the son of Aaron Fields and Vanessa Fields. I participate in cross country and track at the high school, and I'm in 11th grade.
Hi, my name is Libby Couch. I am the daughter of Brad Couch and Leanne Couch. I am involved in track, soccer, and cross country currently at the high school, and then I am in 11th grade.
My name is Jacqueline Ellett. My parents are Andrew Ellett and Amy Ellett. I participate in soccer and basketball at the high school.
And my name is Alice Friesen. My parents are Megan. I also do soccer at the high school, and I run.
Christy? Council members, once they've signed, we'll gather everyone in front for a photo. Parents, we'll share these photos with you, but you'll be welcome after me and take additional photos as you like. Or if you'd like to slip up and take a few of your own, you're welcome to as well. Okay, and while we're still under reports from committees, boards, or commissions, we do have an item on the agenda later on regarding general obligation bonds, and we're joined by representatives from Baker Tilly. So we do have Heidi Amsball with us, and I believe Tim Foster to present this evening for council on behalf of this matter. Council will not be taking action on it this evening, but this allows us to provide council information about the opportunity and consideration so council can give direction on where to go from here. So with that, Heidi, thanks for joining us remotely this evening, and please proceed.
Okay, sounds great. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. My screen here. Okay, everybody should be able to see that now. Okay, well, thank you for having us on virtually this evening. Just wanted to walk through some schedules and an opportunity that the city has in front of you guys tonight. Again, not for a vote, from informational purposes and for any questions you guys might have. The mayor does have this information electronically and can send it around if you've not already received it, but I believe you might have already. So jumping to the first schedule that I have shown on the screen now, this is just essentially a chart that shows the city's net assessed values represented here in the teal bars compared to the city's portion of the tax rate, which is here in this red line on above the assessed values. So in Indiana, the way the property tax system works is when assessed values go up, the tax rates come down to get you to the same levy or the budget that you have to work with for each one of your funds. As you know, the levy or the budget for each fund can only grow by what is called the maximum levy growth quotient each year, which the state prescribes. And for 2026 for your budget, you can only grow each one of your funds by 4%. So taking that into consideration and looking at the city's net assessed value from going from 2025 to 2026, you can see the city's net assessed value jumped by 15.8%. So when you are looking at your budget and knowing that your levies and budget can only grow by 4%, which is prescribed by the state, and your AVs are way going over 4% growth, essentially if you do not take any action and move forward with what we are prescribing tonight, then you just won't get any additional revenue and take advantage of any of this growth in assessed value that is happening within the city. One other thing that is important to point out on this schedule is on the right-hand side here, and hopefully you can see my little cursor, is the total tax rate that you all see on your property tax bills. So you can see here for Huntington Corp, if you live in Huntington Corp 005, this is the total tax rate that you are paying on your tax bill. And you can see, again, from 24 to 25, it dropped a little bit because, again, the AVs in the whole county are going up. And then if you live in the Huntington Corp Union Township 023 taxing district, then you can also see the total tax rate that you are paying on your tax bills. So one thing to keep in mind is this 15% growth in assessed value is not only happening just to the city taxing unit, it's also a part of the county's tax base, it's part of the township, the school, and the library, and any other special taxing districts' tax bases. So same goes for them. If assessed values are going up, tax rates will come down to get you to the same levy. So if the county and the school and the library, no one is issuing general obligation bonds to maintain their tax rate, the total tax rate that taxpayers will pay will decrease, which is exactly what happened last year. You can see again the total tax rate both decreased because AVs were going up, tax rates were coming down, even with the city issuing a general obligation bond last year. So the only way in Indiana's tax system that you are able to maintain the city's tax rate from dropping is to issue a general obligation bond. You guys have maxed out all of the other fund rates that you can. CCD rate is one that often if folks don't have that maxed out, then they would just increase their CCD rate to maintain the city's tax rate. In this case, those funds are all maxed out, and general obligations would be the only way that if the policy decision of the council was to maintain the city's tax rate each year, year after year, is the only way you can maintain the rate. So I'll get into that in just a little bit more detail here, but if you would not issue a property tax bond, the AB would continue to go up, and the tax rate would drop. And that would bring no additional revenue into the city. One thing before I move off of this schedule that I want to point out is the city's corporate tax rate here. You guys can see that the total tax rate is over $4. And in that situation, and just thinking about the property tax caps, homeowners' property tax is capped at 1% of your gross assessed value. And so because the tax rate is way over $1, most homeowners in the city of Huntington are at their tax cap. So no matter what happens to the tax rate, you really will continue to be at your tax cap in year after year. And we can get into that in a little bit more detail. Any questions just on the assessed value and the tax rate trends of the city?
Yeah, so their tax rate doesn't go up, but if their assessment of their house goes up, which happened this last year to everybody, they're still paying more taxes. It's just their rate's not up, correct?
Right. So assessment is out of anyone's control. I will say that for 2026 assessed values in Indiana, the state. So when you look at assessments, there are two components that can change your assessed value. One is state-controlled pieces, and the other is local-controlled pieces. And so this year for 2026, the state changed their cost tables throughout the state of Indiana. And so all counties throughout the state of Indiana are seeing increases in assessed value, similar to what you guys are seeing in increases in assessed value. So yes, that does happen. That is out of even the county assessor's control. That is something that is prescribed down to each county and has to be implemented no matter what. That assessed value, again, is nothing that the city makes a decision on. And in this particular case, the county doesn't even make a decision on. So yes, taxpayers can appeal their assessed values to try to decrease them. But when the state is changing cost tables, it just makes it that much more difficult to even settle an appeal. So yes, your assessment can go up. That would be separate and aside from any decisions that the city makes on levying to issue a bond.
Heidi, you noted that the total tax rate on city residents is over $4. Can you break down or distinguish between what portion of that this entity and body is responsible for and what is from elsewhere?
Yes. So all you have control over as a city council is the city's portion of the tax rate. And again, I hope you can see my little cursor here, but the city's portion of this total $4 tax rate is $2.47 for 2025. So that is just a portion of the tax rate. The rest of this is made up from a county portion of their property tax rate, schools, libraries, township, solid waste management district, any other special taxing districts. So you guys can only control and affect the city's portion of the tax rate. So again, even if you guys decide to move forward with maintaining the city's tax rate in 2026 instead of letting it drop, maintaining it around the 2.47, there is a 90% chance your tax rate will still drop because the county, the school, the library, the townships, they would all also have to issue bonds at the same time to maintain this total tax rate. Otherwise, it's going to drop just like what it did from 24 to 25. So there's a very high chance this tax rate will still drop. What does that mean? That just means that there's less circuit breaker tax credits, meaning a lessened amount of taxes that are not being paid.
Thank you, Heidi. Please continue.
Yes. The next schedule is we laid out the 2025 tax rate in the left-hand column per fund. So you can see per fund what the makeup of the 2025 tax rate is based off of the 2025 net assessed value. And then in the right-hand column, we have estimated what your 2026 tax rate would be with increasing the net assessed value and maintaining maximum levy on all of the other funds like you have been doing historically. With that, we would anticipate that the tax rate would go from 2.47 to 2.22, which would be a 24-cent decrease in the tax rate. So again, going back to whether or not the city council wants to make a policy decision to maintain the city's tax rate around the $2.47 rate, essentially you would have to levy a property tax bond that had a payment of about 24 cents on an annual basis to maintain the tax rate. I'm going to talk here in a minute. We basically, due to some limitations that the city has on debt limit and some other limitations due to SEA 1, we can't even infill a 24-cent tax rate. So the city's portion of the tax rate will drop no matter what, even if you decide to move forward tonight, or if you decide to move forward in the future with a property tax bond issue, it still is not going to fully infill this 24-cent rate drop. And I'll move forward to the next schedule to show you some of that. So the next schedule, it gets pretty technical, so I'm just going to stay pretty high level and talk about the city's debt limit, which is on the top portion of this form. The city currently has a debt limit of a little over 2.9 million of debt limit available to it. As you may recall from our conversation this time last year when we issued the 2024 GO bonds, the debt limit just allows you less legal steps to be able to issue bonds to pay for projects. Oftentimes, which you guys are familiar with, we have to issue lease rental bonds to get around the debt limit size, which is a common structure. But for this particular bond issue, the goal was to stay at the debt limit and inside the debt limit and just issue a straight up general obligation bond issue. I'm going to move forward to the next schedule to talk in a little bit more detail. So again, that 2.9 is the size of bond that we currently have in front of you this evening. That would be maxing out the city's current debt limit. Keep in mind that debt limit that I just showed you is based off of your 2025 net assessed value. So knowing that your 2026 net assessed value is going up, you will have additional debt limit available to you next year. But we have to do this calculation based on the year that we would issue the bonds. So 2.94 would be the par amount of the bond issue. That size bond issue would net you for construction of different projects, $2,795,000, and then some issuance cost that would be paid out of the bond to get this deal done. At a bond issue of this size, and running it at a 3-year term, the debt service tax rate would be 13 cents. So as I mentioned before, we cannot infill the 24-cent rate decrease that would have happened if you do nothing, but we can infill 13 cents, and that is merely due to the debt limit size.
So are you saying if we do this, that's 13 cents that will not be decreased on the regular taxpayers' taxes, correct?
Correct. Yeah, we would be adding an additional 13-cent levy to the reduced tax rate. Let me go back here. So again, we are anticipating that your rate would drop to 2.22. Instead of it dropping to 2.22, it would be dropping to 2.22 plus the 13 cents, about 2.35.
And that 13 cents is how weekly, the 13 cents is per year, per day?
Per year.
Okay.
And yeah, let me go down to the amortization schedule, which is the final schedule
Sorry,
that I
I'm
have
getting
for you tonight. So this is the payment amortization schedule. Like the 2024 bonds, this would be a fixed interest rate at closing. This is illustrative at this point in time, but it is a 3-year bond issue that would mature February of 2029, and the annual debt service levy for those 3 years is 13 cents. And you can see we actually intentionally kind of drop the structure each year, drop the rate a little bit each year, just in anticipation of, future SCA 1 impacts.
And that's 13 cents per person, not per $100 or anything like that, correct?
It is per $100. Yeah. It's adding 13 cents onto the tax rate. So again, one thing to keep in mind, and if I go kind of circle around back up to the very first schedule that I showed, it would essentially be adding, if this tax rate was the same, the total tax rate was still around $4, it would be, the tax rate would be maintaining around $4.07 still. So if you historically, as a taxpayer, have been hitting the circuit breaker tax caps, you will continue to be hitting the circuit breaker tax caps, and you will not be paying additional taxes due to this bond issue. That any other questions anyone has?
At this time, please continue, Heidi.
Those are all the schedules that I have.
Okay. So Heidi, then one of the things I want to make clear here, because we've been talking about the rate, but what is the out-of-pocket impact to a taxpayer such as myself in the city of Huntington if council chooses not to do this, or if council chooses to proceed with issuing the bonds? How does that impact my out-of-pocket tax payment on the subsequent years?
On your home, it will not change your tax bill because you would be hitting the tax caps.
So there is no out-of-pocket benefit or negative to taxpayers based on council's decision with how to move forward with this?
If you're hitting tax caps, which, again, probably everyone is.
Yep. Yeah, just so we can clear up that one too, the mayor does pay the same rate as everyone else.
One thing I would add too, kind of separate aside from the conversation, but it does affect property taxes, is starting in 2026, everybody will get that new tax credit that was a part of SCA 1, which would be $150 off of your net tax bill on the dollar side of things. So that is an additional decrease in your tax bill that everybody will feel this year if you're a homestead owner.
So it's not going to affect the taxpayer themselves, but it is a bond, so it is debt for the city that has to be repaid, correct?
It is, yep,
Okay.
3 years.
Thank you.
Any further questions from council for the Baker Tilly team?
Can we go back to that repayment schedule just to
Yeah.
do that again?
Yep. Okay. Can you see it?
Yeah, we can. Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll circulate a copy of this for council ahead of the next meeting too.
So this will be repaid out of the general then? Is that how it works? No?
So it'll get added. Let me scoot up here to the schedule of your tax rate currently. So these are all of the funds that you guys currently have, and for the other bond issues that are payable from a property tax, they have their own separate line item on the budget order. That'll be the same way. So if you guys decide to move forward, Christy will need to add in before the public hearing and into the advertisement notice a new line item for this bond issue. And so it would come through as a new line item, a new separate debt service tax rate.
Okay, any further questions for Baker Tilly?
Heidi, going back down to the last slide. So you're looking at the bond issuance at 3.65%?
That's the illustrative interest rate that we have plugged in right now.
Okay. So to the bond purchaser on the other side, this is a tax-free municipal bond. So that's
It
why
is.
the rate's so low?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
And it's just for 3 years?
correct. Yes, so for those bankers in the room, we'll be in touch.
Okay.
Yeah. So kind of next steps with it, if you guys decide, that you want to move forward, because this is a straight up GO bond issue, it just requires a council ordinance and an appropriation resolution. And so the approval process is very quick on this type of bond issue. And then we will be working with the mayor and team to determine the bond sale method, if you guys decide to move forward. In between local bank purchased bond issue versus an open market sold deal.
So because we're all at the tax cap, we're protected from really paying more than our 1%, regardless of this bond issuance.
Correct.
And I'm sure we're not the only city that looks at this sort of thing. Are other people looking at this?
I would say that because the state changed the cost tables and that affected every county in Indiana, we are very, very busy right now because several cities throughout the state and towns throughout the state are issuing bonds right now to maintain their tax rate. Yeah, so this is a very, very common procedure. So it will, again, bring in a little under $2.8 million to the city to fund public infrastructure projects with. And so that also will be a list of projects that I know the mayor's put together and you guys can discuss as well. And I think the list of projects might be longer than what the bonds can even get you to.
Always is. Okay, anything further for Baker Tilly? All right, Heidi, Tim, thanks for joining us this evening. We'll be circulating your report to council members. Council, if you have any technical questions in the meantime, they're available to answer those questions ahead of the next council, depending on how our conversation later in the meeting goes. So thank you for joining us tonight. Take care.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. All right, next item on the agenda, petitions or comments from citizens this evening. Charlie, Christie, anything?
No, thank you.
Okay. And not aware of any old business. Proceeding along to new business. First item on the agenda this evening is first reading of ordinance 17C25, 2026 salary ordinance. Christie?
Yes, ordinance 17C25. This ordinance, if adopted, would fix the salaries of appointed officers of the city of Huntington, Indiana from and after December 28th, 2025 through the pay period ending December 26th, 2026, and the hourly employees of the city of Huntington, Indiana from and after December 21st, 2025 through the pay period ending December 19th, 2026.
Is there a motion to bring ordinance 17C25 to the floor for consideration and adoption?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and second. Further discussion by council members regarding the salary ordinance for this year.
Response. Can you go to page 3, please?
Okay.
There's a 2%, a 3%, and a 6%. Can you explain that to me?
At the bottom.
That's at the bottom on the differentials for the responsibilities of, depending on the police position of that officer. Sure, Corey can explain, or Chris, of what the, 2% is what they would get on their base pay that's at the top if they are a resource officer at the school. So they get their pay plus a 2% if they're that position,
Okay.
okay? A 3% 3% is based on the grant writer. So the one officer that's the grant writer gets an extra 3% on their base that's at the top, depending on what their position is. And then the 6% is if you're a detective. If you're a captain or a sergeant in the detectives, you get an extra 6% up at the top, if you're, depending on your position.
Okay, because I thought it was 3% all the way through.
It is, the top positions are 3% increase from this year to next year. So your base pay, like police and fire have a base pay, and then if they have additional duties, that's what the salary ordinance spells out. But only a few of those officers have those additional duties, and because of that additional duty, then they get an extra percentage.
That's been like
Planning
that
it.
forever, and it's just an internal thing. Are we
Yes.
approving 6 extra percent than they didn't have before?
That's
No,
been
yeah,
there for
it's
years.
been
Been
on
there,
there.
yeah, that's what I wanted to know.
Yes, internally, that's been there.
Okay, good.
That doesn't change, it's just the top, the base pay changes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to
Like
make
a
sure.
shift or a duty or
Because
something
you said 3,
specific.
so I just saw the 6, so I thought I'd ask.
Okay, yes, that's what that is.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Further questions or clarifications on the salary ordinance? Okay, not seeing or hearing any at this time, we'll call the question on first reading of ordinance 17C25 as presented. Christie?
Belton,
Yes.
Funk, Johnson,
Yes.
Pike,
Yes.
Rensberger,
Yes.
Brodigan,
Yes.
Chapman.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving along the agenda to first reading of ordinance 18C25, 2026 elected official salary ordinance. Christie?
Ordinance 18C25. This ordinance, if adopted, would fix the salaries of elected officials of the city of Huntington, Indiana from and after December 28th, 2025 through the pay period ending December 26th, 2026. This is the mayor and the clerk and the councils.
Is there a motion to bring ordinance 18C25 to the floor for consideration and adoption as submitted?
I'll move. Second.
A motion and second. Further discussion and consideration by council members. Not seeing or hearing any at this time, we'll call the question in favor of approval of ordinance 18C25 on first reading. Christie?
Funk,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Pike,
Yes.
Rensberger,
Yes.
Brodigan,
Yes.
Chapman,
Yes.
Felton.
Yes.
And moving along on the agenda then is first reading of ordinance 19C25, 2026 budget appropriation ordinance. Christie?
Ordinance 19C25. This ordinance, if adopted, would appropriate sums of money for the purpose of defraying the expenses of the several departments of the city government of the city of Huntington, Indiana for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2026, ending December 31st, 2026, including all outstanding claims and obligations and fixing a time when the same shall take effect. This ordinance reflects the blue folders that everyone got on the budget that was presented by each department. So this is per department, per category spelled out. And this is the budget that is adopted for 2026.
Is there a motion to approve ordinance 19C25 on first reading?
I'll move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second, and as noted, Christie pointed out to the council members, department heads are here. They did present the previous council meeting, but if you do have any questions for them on any portion of the budget, or myself or Christie, please by all means. So with that, council members, discussion, consideration, or questions?
Is the lady for the, had a question about the dog food? Here? No, okay.
For the Humane Society,
Yes.
what is the question about the dog food? Let's see if we can figure it out.
My question is the city paying for the extra dog food they give to people who say they can't afford it or can't afford it, or is that donated from the businesses that have the dog food?
So I think this question did come up in her presentation. My recollection of what she
I asked her,
shared,
but I was confused as far as how it was.
my understanding is that all of the dog food that they give away is donated from area retailers who, for whatever reason, can't put it out on the shelf. Either
Okay.
they've got a turnaround period or the bag was damaged when they received it. That's my understanding, so.
Okay.
Further questions? Okay, not seeing or hearing any at this time, we'll call the question in favor of approval of ordinance 19C25 on first reading. Christie?
Johnson,
Yes.
Pike. Rensberger,
Yes.
Rodigam,
Yes.
Chapman,
Yes.
Belton,
Yes.
Funk.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is open consideration of the general obligation bond based on Baker Tilly's presentation. Is there a motion to open discussion and consideration?
So moved.
A motion and second. At this time, I just invite council members to share freely thoughts on the possibility about issuing the GO bond. You have a letter from me that details kind of highlights of what Baker Tilly provided in much greater detail. Some examples of capital projects that might be used for these funds. This is not a closed list, but these are just some possibilities. Improvements to the police shooting range. There's improvements to the hangars of the municipal airport, reconstruction of Ash Street, skate park at Yeoman, community pool or beach, municipal building renovations. There are a number of projects throughout the city that those funds can be used for, or they can be contributing to at least some portion of the capital stack on those projects. And so at this time, we just invite open discussion from council, and then we'll close council's discussion with direction to the administration on whether or not you want an ordinance brought back to you at the next meeting. So, council members?
Was the improvements to the city building already approved earlier in the year for in the general?
The renovations to this building are part of last year's lease revenue bonds project.
So does it need more now? Because that's one of the things you mentioned in it.
Municipal buildings can mean several.
Any of the buildings?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's some items on this that'll probably be alternatives because we have to keep under a certain threshold with it, but we're still trying to quote out what that would look like.
I think with the big projects that the city has anticipated for the public use, I think it would be wise to move forward with this. I feel like a 3.6% interest rate on $2 million doesn't really sound that bad, especially paid over a course of 3 years. Just knowing what everybody wants in the city, everyone's always complaining we don't have a pool, or the project at Yeoman, Ash Street needs reconstructed, all the different projects that everybody brings up. This is an opportunity to move forward, and I think it'd be wise for the city to move forward with a $2.8 million bond.
Well, I don't like debt, so it is adding debt to the city. Yes, it can be paid off with a low interest rate. The other thing, I would be more apt to vote for it if I knew exactly what the money was going for. Because I personally think, and we've talked about this before, I don't want to bring up a whole thing, but a community pool is a consistent, I go to all these other cities and the pools are concrete, dead zones, and it's just, it's a waste of money. We need a lot more things in the pools, like maybe paving the streets more and stuff like that are all bumpy and things like that everybody uses every day. And the pool's a maintenance nightmare. We'll be paying for the maintenance of it forever. And it's just more cost. And that's not what we need, especially with what the state just did with SG1 or whatever they called it. Yeah.
SEA1.
Thank you. So if I knew what it was going for, I'd be more apt to vote for this. But to add $2.8 million in debt, even though it's a low rate, I'm not really for that, because even though it's not going to affect taxpayers because of what it is, it may down the road, because then we have to pay for all this and then all the other things, and then we'll get less money next year. Or is it 2 years we'll get less money from the state? Yeah. So I don't want to build up a big debt, because we may have to do a bond like this in 2 or 3 years if we lose money just to keep things running the way they should be. So that's my opinion on it. It's not a hard stance, but that's just the way I'm feeling about it, just so you all know.
Appreciate that, Todd. By way of follow-up, I know you mentioned the pool being a low priority for you if we were to use these funds. Are there other projects that you think should be a higher priority for these types of funds?
I don't understand the Ash Street thing, because I've never been involved in it very much, so I don't even know what they want to do there. I don't know much about the park, what they want to do there. It's been a long time since I've been by the park. So if I knew more detail of what you want to use the money for, then I would be more apt to say, let's do this. But just given a general $2.8 million, and this is no offense, Mr. Mayor, but just giving $2.8 million for the mayor to decide what he wants to use it for, I don't like that. I'd rather have a structure of what we're going to use it for, so everybody knows. And then the people that, then people out here, they won't say, oh, the mayor's just spending on whatever, his pet projects or whatever. We've had that before with other mayors. So I don't want pet projects done. I want done whatever's best for the city. And as a council, it's our job to direct the money where it should go, and not just give a free-for-all for anybody, just do whatever they want with it. So that's my opinion. That's why I really don't want to do that if it's not going to be directed in the right ways. And I honestly think we're going to need to do this in 2 or 3 years when the state cuts our money. And so that's that debt, and this isn't paid for, then you got another whatever million we have on our cap, and it's just going to add up, and then we're going to start building our debt, and we don't need to do that. We need to take care of the citizens, but we don't need to build up a bunch of debt for somebody else to come fix later, because that's been done before too. So I just don't want to, that's not a good thing. I'm just saying. So.
Thank you, Todd. Other council members, thoughts or questions?
I thought it was a lot of information. It's a lot, the rest of it, when they said this is all a lot of numbers, a lot of different things. I'd like to see that first before we go on, but I know that it'll probably be brought to council next time, so I'm looking forward to looking at that data and make sure everything's square and whatever that is. And thanks for Todd for the way you feel about things too, and you too, PJ.
I've talked to the mayor about this. Yesterday we had a Zoom call and talked to Heidi again about this, and then she made her presentation tonight. Still not sure I understand how the state has structured this, but one thing is consistent. 25 years ago when I was on the school board and I started learning about budgeting process, I realized that the state structures a framework and a rules that they really kind of want you to borrow money. They don't want you to overfund the money that you bring in for your accounts. And Heidi made an observation yesterday that our accounts are fully funded and we're at our levy, but we still have excess levy available. That's what this bond does, is it captures that excess. And the only way we can get it by the rules that the state has set up is that we have to float a bond. I'm with you. I don't like to borrow money, but it's how the rules are. And I know that I've got a whole list of things in my district that I have residents come to me and say, boy, it'd be nice if we had this, if we did this, if we fixed that. I hear that quite frequently with people wanting to see things get done. And I agree. I would like to see a prioritized list. I think that would be a good exercise to know what's the money's going to go for. But yeah, it's crazy what they do in Indianapolis to try to control how we do things, because I would prefer not to borrow money, and that's what I asked Heidi. Why can't we just capture that money and just put it right into our budget and not incur any bonding costs? And it's not how it's done. So, but as PJ noted, the rate's good, and the bonding costs, I didn't think, arguably weren't that much. It's pretty straightforward bonds. So, but I agree, Todd. I would like to see a list that would, I think that would let people know where the money's going, and now that we're having this conversation, maybe the administration will hear from other people about items in the community. Never seen us shorten our list beyond what people would like to see done. There's always something else to be found.
I would concur that I think what the administration wants to know is, are we interested in this in general before they prepare a list with more details? But if we're not interested in, so they're sort of speaking, Todd, to your question about taking on debt, that's, as Charlie said, that's the way the state structures things. Way back in the 1990s when I started on county council, a member of the council who'd been on there a long time said to me, you got to remember Indiana operates according to the golden rule. That is, them with the gold makes the rules, and they're in Indianapolis. And they're not going to cede that control, right? And so, the opportunity to, we're not going to address these projects at all in the next 3 years without a bond. There's no money to do that. This is the only way to get the money to do just one of these things, right? So I'm saying, let's explore it, let's get more specifics, but in general, yeah, if we don't do the bond, we can't do anything else. So we have to take the bond option as the only way we can address, even if we just say, okay, all we want to do is improve Ash Street, for example. The only way we're going to improve Ash Street in the next 3 years and reconstruct it, and it's a mess if you've driven on it, and it's dangerous. And the people who live down there deserve that to be addressed, but we can't address it until 2029 or 2028, 7, 8, 9, unless we do this. So it's going to wait another 4 years.
And that's fine. That's what I was looking for, some direction. But
yeah,
the way it was presented tonight is, here's $3 million. Here's a list of things I wouldn't mind doing with it. I just want more direction to say,
right,
this is what I'm going to use it for. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's what I want.
Right.
I'm fine with going, but they're talking about bringing ordinance next meeting before we even,
right,
I mean, to vote on. It's like, I'm not voting on it till I know what the heck the money's going for. You know what I'm saying? Or
right.
I'm just voting no if there's, hey, the mayor can do whatever he wants. Okay, get another thing over here, get another thing over there, and it's just not,
Well, the mayor can't spend money without our input.
If we give him the $2.8 million, he can spend it however he wants, the way it was explained to me.
No, the mayor,
or whatever project he wants.
The council is still going to be responsible for approving projects. The mayor can't spend money without somebody else.
This is a good distinction. So council's determination on the ordinance that would be brought back is to issue the bonds, not to authorize any potential projects listed within those bond documents. They would require further additional appropriation after design for council's approval.
So if it's approved, then we approve what project you use it for?
Yes.
Or that's your call?
All of them get approved, yes.
Oh, I mean, but if you give us a list of 5 things, then you can use it on any of them, correct?
Not until it comes back to you for appropriation.
We have the responsibility of appropriating the money once it's there.
Yeah, right, because
for whatever
everything.
Yeah, so the way this works within the city is we have a 5-year rolling capital plan of projects that we identify based on community feedback and department heads knowing their department. So as we work off of that list and identify those, each year we move forward with more detail on each of those projects. Now, when we start out with a very high-level estimate on what that project might cost. So that's the number that I would be bringing in terms of the next level of refinement from the letter here. That would be the high-level cost that comes back to you. As we get into design, then we learn more and we're able to right-size what that cost is going to be. And it may go up or it may go down depending on what we find with the individual project. But ultimately, that final design number is what needs to come back to council then for authorization and approval one way or the other.
And then it's project specific.
Yes.
that's fine. I can handle that. Okay. But if it just goes to general fund and they can do what, you know what I'm saying?
No, it'd
Yeah,
be
As long
like,
as it's directed the right way,
Okay.
I'm better with it,
Yep.
but,
it'd be like we've done this year, fire station, city building renovation. It's not out of the general fund, it's in a whole different category.
Yeah, and even, so last year with the
this
lease
is good
revenue
learning, guys, by the way.
I mean, it is
That's
complicated.
why I
so
ask
that's why
questions like this, because I don't know.
It's helpful to go through it. So for instance, last year with the lease revenue bonds, the projects that were identified in that, we've spent, 3 or 4 of us have spent the last year fine-tuning and refining and moving the next step forward on that so that we can work with other professionals to bring you back more refined plans with a specific target, contractor, deadlines, all of those sorts of things. They still need further appropriation and approval from council at that point, though, and that's when you get the pretty presentations and the PowerPoints. So, but yeah, that all still comes back.
Okay.
Let me clarify. 90% of it comes back. Small dollar items that are in there below certain thresholds we are authorized to move ahead on. Like
Okay.
the bridge replacement at Memorial Park, that got taken care of. It was like $3,700.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but Ash Street reconstruction, that's definitely coming back to council.
Okay.
So that's gonna be a little bit more than $3,700.
That's for the wheel on one truck.
Andrew, Dave? No comment at this time? Okay. So then, can I get formal direction from council that you want to find out, you want to see a specific ordinance, you want to see a specific list of potential projects, but you do want us to do that work and bring it forward, as Dwight noted, instead of just letting it die tonight?
Yeah, do you need a motion or just a?
I would appreciate a motion, just so
Okay.
we've got it in the record.
Yeah, I move that that the administration proceed with both an ordinance and a list of projects that has more specificity.
I second that.
A motion and second, further consideration of the motion on the table.
Can we get the documents that she showed us tonight? Can that be
Yes.
sent around to
Yes,
us? That way
you'll
we
be
can
getting
all
that first thing in the
visualize
morning.
that? Okay,
Yep.
perfect, thank you.
Further discussion and consideration of the motion on the table? Not hearing any at this time, we'll call for approval of the motion. Christie?
Pike,
Yes.
Rensberger,
Yes.
Brodigan,
Yes.
Chapman,
Yes.
Dalton,
Yes.
Funk,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm not aware of any miscellaneous items for the good of the order. Is there a motion for adjournment?
Moved.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned. Have a good night.